I'm Ken Matz.
I'm Sally Thorner. Thanks for joining us tonight. Coming up on the News Hour, several mysterious deaths have Baltimore City Police busy with investigations. Maryland's top bank merges with the third largest bank in the state. Is Baltimore's metro system in trouble? Cracks have been found in the railroad ties.
We'll show you some of the most beautiful religious artwork ever created. In HealthCast, help for sufferers of varicose veins. And Tony's travels off to the races. Turtle races. All this and more ahead on the News Hour.
This is Channel 2 News at 5. With Ken Matz, Sally Thorner, meteorologist Ken Phillips, and sports with Scott Garceau. This is Channel 2 News.
Topping our news tonight, less than an hour ago, Baltimore Mayor Kurt Schmoke signed an executive order to release hundreds of inmates from the city jail.
The mayor says it's in response to an overcrowding problem that created a near-riot situation last night. Channel 2 Sam Ringgold joins us live now with more on the story. Sam?
Well, Sally and Ken, this is the executive order, and it's what Mayor Schmoke has responded to what he called a tense situation at the city jail last night. An additional 80 inmates at the jail last night forced double celling, and a major disturbance almost broke out, according to the mayor. Now, the mayor said he has instructed his corrections commissioner to develop a list of inmates who are being held but have not yet been tried. He said it will mean some 500 to 600 people being held will be released under what he called a curfew program. But the mayor insisted and emphasized these are not violent offenders.
What we have at the city jail are mainly people awaiting trial, not people who have been convicted of crimes, and we are definitely excluding crimes of violence.
Now, the mayor said he has notified the police department, the state's attorney's office, and the courts about this latest development. As many of you may recall, the city right now is under a court order to limit the population at the city jail, and right now they are in violation of that federal court order. The limit on the order places some 2,600 inmates at the jail. That is the limit, but as of now there are 2,800 inmates being held there. So the city is in contempt of that order, or in violation of that order, by some 200 inmates. Sally and Ken?
Sam, as I recall, it was just yesterday that the city decided to go after potential drug dealers, loiterers on the streets. What happens to that program now? Is that dead before it gets started?
Well, no, the program is not dead before it gets started, but what will happen, and it's a part of the whole thing that happened today, the mayor said that the 80 people who forced the situation last night, 80 people were released from the jail today. So, I mean, and everyone is aware that the drug problem, and here we are in the heat of summer, that the situation will not get better before the summer is over, obviously. So the mayor said that they have issued or notified the courts about this development, and what will happen, they're trying to work with the courts to work this whole thing out, to work out a plan that will not only keep the limits down, but will manage the population at the prison, because right now that is the problem. Obviously, as the summer goes on, there will be more drug arrests made, and those people will be sent to the city jail.
All right, Sam, looks like the mayor's in a tough position on this one. Thanks for that live report from downtown.
Channel 2's Jamie Costello joins us live now from the city jail. With him, City Jail Commissioner Barbara Bostic.
Jamie, first, there is an overcrowding problem. We know that. And second, how does Mrs. Bostic feel about the mayor's decision to release the inmates? Jamie?
We are right now in front of the city jail. Some of the relatives that are just hearing the late-breaking news are now coming into the jail to find out if they can find out more information on their relatives that are inside. Even the prisoners that are right now inside the city jail are shouting out of their windows, wondering to know if they are one of those 500 or 600 that are going to be released. That's all we know at the present time. The mood here along this street is one of not knowing what exactly is going on, and we hope to have more for you tonight at 6 o'clock. But relatives are showing up. The prisoners are beginning to ask a couple of questions. We hope to have those answered tonight at 6 o'clock.
All right, Jamie, thanks for that live report. I think he's having some trouble with his audio, our audio going to him today.
Okay, well, today's let-up in the heat has not meant a let-up in the tension at the Patuxent Institution. For the third day in a row, inmates have failed to report to their prison jobs. The men are upset about the heat and changes in the way that institution is run. Fans and ice are being brought in, and last night a videotape explaining legislative changes at Patuxent were shown 3 times. The legislature ordered a stop-to-work release and furlough programs at Patuxent. Tensions have been high ever since.
It's 5:03 and a question. What happens when Maryland's largest bank merges with the state's third biggest? Well, you get the country's 24th largest banking institution. Today, officials with Maryland National and Equitable Bank announced plans to join forces. When the merger is complete, the new bank will have assets of more than $23 billion and 250 offices in Maryland. Daniel Finney of MNC, Maryland National's parent firm, says normal attrition will take care of any job reductions. There will be no layoffs.
Baltimore City Police are calling the deaths of two men whose bodies were discovered in their home this morning questionable. Police say the girlfriend of one of the men found the bodies when she went to the house on East 31st Street this morning. As Stephen Hill reports, the police say they haven't established a motive, nor have they found any weapons.
Homicide detectives searched outside the house on East 31st Street in Baltimore this morning, looking for clues, bits of evidence, anything that could help solve the mystery.
We're considering this case as a questionable death at this time.
The bodies of two white men, police say in their 40s, were discovered by one of the men's girlfriend. She had come to the house this morning for breakfast. The landlady, who neighbors identify as Virginia Hoover, unlocked the door to the first floor apartment where the men had been living. The girlfriend went in, found the two men, one lying in the doorway of the bathroom, the other in the dining room.
At the present time, we do not have any obvious signs of forced entry. We don't have any obvious signs of what could have caused the death.
And authorities say there were no signs of forcible entry. Residents of this street say it's relatively peaceful, seldom any trouble. But they do say the two deceased men, yet to be identified by police, were often rowdy and drank a lot.
I really didn't know them personally, but there were lots of unusual things going on.
I understand lots of drinking, lots of noise.
Lots of drinking, lots of noise, an occasional fight, altercations on the street.
The landlady and the girlfriend were questioned by police this morning. Some who knew the deceased say they saw one of the men yesterday. Others say Sunday night. Police say the medical examiner will determine tomorrow how and when the two men died. Stephen Hill, Channel 2 News.
But this information just into Channel 2 News. Police have identified the body of one of the men. He's 44-year-old John Charles Tweely. Again, the cause of the deaths has not yet been determined.
Tonight, police are still looking for clues after a man was found dead in a Fells Point rooming house. His body was discovered by police at 1829 Alice Ann this morning. Authorities say the man, thought to be about 45 years old, appeared to have been dead almost a week. The cause of his death is still unknown, and the man's identity has not been released. Metro Crime Stoppers needs your help to solve a Baltimore homicide. If your tip leads to the arrest and indictment of a suspect, you'll be eligible for a reward up to $1,000. Now, we normally show photos of the suspects in our Crime Stopper cases, but police have virtually no leads, no suspects in this homicide. So tonight, we have a photo of the victim, 39-year-old Diane Ferguson, found murdered at her home, 2657 Frederick Avenue in southwest Baltimore last March 14th, about 6 p.m. She'd been beaten to death. Ms. Ferguson lived in the house with her roommate. If you have information about this homicide, call the Metro Crime Stopper 24-hour hotline, 276-8888. You don't have to give your name. The call is not recorded. The Crime Stopper number can be used for tips on this and any other unsolved crimes in the news today.
How do police departments keep up with the rising costs of fighting crime? Today, law enforcement officials got a little financial help from a drug dealer. Indirectly, of course. Federal and Baltimore County agents descended on a Randallstown neighborhood this morning to take what was probably purchased with drug money. Channel 2's Mary Beth Marsden was there.
As convicted heroin dealer Ronald Gant sits in a New York prison, little does he know law enforcers are taking his Randallstown house and everything in it.
I don't know what this is. Chinchilla?
Agents found more than a half-dozen furs, a computer, and a television. They didn't find any drugs, but they hit the jackpot discovering this bank book showing a balance of $100,000.
I just thought it was strange that young people can spend a lot of money on a house and not, go to work. I couldn't do it.
Learning Gant paid $90,000 cash for the house, neighbors weren't the only ones suspicious. County and federal officials showed probable cause to put the federal asset seizure law into action, allowing the government to take over illegally gained assets.
Well, the money from the sale of the house and anything inside will be turned over to the federal government, and they'll divvy it up between us and them based on our involvement in the investigation.
To give you an idea of what a seizure like this can mean for a local police department, take one of these fur coats confiscated today. It may be worth a couple $1,000s, money that could be used for 4 or 5 new 9mm guns for the county.
These days, as tight as budgets are, local budgets, federal budgets, obviously it is important because it helps buy equipment, much needed equipment.
Good dog, good dog.
It's getting more expensive every year to fight drugs, so when officers can see a drug dealer go to jail and confiscate his ill-gotten gains, it doubles their satisfaction. In Randallstown, Mary Beth Marsden, Channel 2 News.
39-year-old Ronald Gant is serving 20 years on various drug charges. He was convicted last February.
Social workers at noon today, they formed a line, more than 100 strong. In their hands, signs and pickets. But these state workers are not calling for higher wages. They are state social workers calling for relief from oppressive workloads.
Frustration is when you come to DSS, you know you're not going to be making high pay, but you think you're going to be helping people. And when you lose the ability to help people that we're so used to doing, then this is what brings about a picket like this. The clients are suffering. We really believe that because they think we are going to be able to help, and we're suffering because we know that we're not. And each day, we're facing yesterday's problems.
State social workers are responsible for the safety and well-being of children throughout the state. They place children at risk in foster care and provide help to parents. Social workers from all over the state turned out for today's rally. Crop damage from recent rains has been so spotty in Maryland that farmers and officials agree it's still too early to apply for federal disaster assistance. According to the latest figures released today, almost every part of the state received excessive rain, but the amounts varied from more than an inch to almost 16 inches above normal on the eastern shore. Governor Schaefer met with farmers this afternoon to decide whether or not he should ask for federal assistance. He heard that damage around the state has been pretty spotty, although many farmers have been badly hurt by the rains and some have lost virtually all of their crops.
It's too wet almost for the oats and the corn, but all in all, it's just wet. we had a lot of rain again last night.
It's very spotty. See, some areas are over wet and others almost ideal, but I lost some small grain because of the wet weather.
It's extremely wet over there. We've got some fields that won't be planted at all this year. And right now we're still trying to get some of our early crops in, and this is extremely late.
But even the farmers who have been hurt by rains told the governor today they did not expect much help from the state and agreed that it was too soon to apply for federal help.
The saying, they don't make things like they used to, is hitting home at Metro Rail these days. After just 2 years of operation, Metro is faced with a $5 million repair job on 6 miles of track. Brad Bell explains.
Every 7 minutes or so, the Metro rumbles down the rails. The stress makes the tracks sing. Even so, under normal wear and tear, the ties that support the rails are supposed to last 40 years. Yet after just 2 years of operation, cracks have been found along 6 miles of ties from the Milford Mill Station north. It adds up to 22,000 ties needing replacement.
Here's a little one here. They're all very minor. Most of them are the length of the tie, and then there's a couple that are starting to... As long as it's on the end, it doesn't cause any concern. What we're doing now is inspecting them with more frequency than we've been doing, and we'll continue to do that. And if we see a problem developing faster than we anticipated, we'll replace that particular one.
The job of replacing these ties will be a big one. They'll have to be slid out and new ones slid in somehow. They estimate the cost at about $5 million. And before the work can even begin, the MTA has to hire a consultant to engineer the best way to do the job.
We haven't decided how we're going to stage the construction. However, we do promise to continue the service. We have about 50,000 riders a day, and we certainly don't want anybody to panic and assume that we're closing the system just to do the construction, when really we won't do construction until sometime in the fall. And even then, we can schedule it so that we can continue service.
The ties were made by Connecticut-based Lone Star Industries. Metro lawyers are now negotiating with the firm about their liability. The same problem exists at 4 other rail lines across the country and is being blamed on a chemical reaction within the cement. However, engineers insist it poses no safety risk yet. At Milford Mill Metro, Brad Bell, Channel 2 News.
The issue will be before the State Board of Public Works next week. Metro will be seeking approval to sign a design contract for the repair.
There's more ahead on the News Hour. We're going to show you the beauty and serenity of Rome's religious artwork.
Our series, A Sacred Blessing, takes us inside St. Peter's Basilica.
Only at Nationwide Nissan Saab Isuzu, buy with no money down.
Plus, make no payments till 1990.
Nationwide Nissan Sentra
Pickup
or Isuzu pickup.
Full balance just $47.88.
Just $47.88.
Hurry to Nationwide Nissan Saab Isuzu.
York and Timonium Roads. Attention first-time buyers. Nationwide Nissan can put you in a new car or truck. No credit needed. No cosigners. See if you qualify. Call 252-8000 now. That's right, 252